Hello, good morning, good afternoon, dear viewers, friends, and colleagues. Welcome to the channel Innovative Sustainability. Great to see you here. Thanks for joining, and don't forget to subscribe. Today, we will be talking about sustainability of the future workforce, and this is why we have here our guest, Dr. Samia Ounoughi, who is teaching and as a senior lecturer at the University of Grenoble, Alps Lidl. And she will be talking about her studies, her work, but also her aspirations from the work in interdisciplinary team. I know Samia for many years, and I would like to briefly introduce her um, as researcher. Sorry, I'm trying to connect here. Yes. Okay. So she started her studies as the researcher DEA, right? That's correct. At the University of Saint Etienne, Jean Monnet University at Saint Etienne, specializing in cultures, English-speaking cultures and civilizations. And then she followed it to doctorate studies of English studies at the University of Marseille, correct? And then followed by the also doctorate studies at the University of Grenoble. So, did I say something wrong? Correct me. So then now she's a senior lecturer there, and she will be sharing her story, inspiration of working with interdisciplinary researchers in her team. I think it's a very unique experience, and we'll see the glimpse of a completely new world of linguistics and how the words actually have meaning and affect many areas of study. Samia, the floor is yours.
Thank you
Welcome.
very much.
Happy to see you here. Yes.
Thank you. Shall I share my slideshow?
Yes, absolutely. Floor is yours.
Okay, can you see it?
Yes, looks good. Full screen.
Perfect.
Maybe back to full screen if it's
Yeah.
easy. Yes.
Um, okay.
Perfect.
So actually, I don't think I can, but it should be all right.
That's okay
So
too.
thank you very much for inviting me to give a talk on your channel, Marina. It's a great honor for me. So my warmest thanks go out to you. First of all, I would like to thank all the people who are watching us. I would like to share my experience with interdisciplinarity, that is to say, working together on research, crossing different disciplines that may not seem to overlap in the first place, but actually do. So first of all, I would like to speak about who I am and what I do. I'm a senior lecturer at the University of Grenoble, Université Grenoble-Alpes here in France. I'm a linguist and I specialize in the English language. I train future teachers who are going to be teachers in secondary schools. This might be the subject of a future video. Today, I would like to share my experience of working with researchers of other disciplines. So first, I hope that what I'm going to say today, which has enhanced my own research, while sharing my experience with working with other specialists of other disciplines, will raise other researchers' consciousness to the idea that words matter. To be more specific about my own research, my job is to understand the relations between language and geographical space, between language and the world around us. So I try to find out to what extent the way in which we speak about rivers, about towns, about mountains, all shape the world and shapes our way to perceive the world. So in fact, I used the word geographical earlier on, so it will not come as a surprise if I tell you that I'm working with geographers. But also things change and the world changes, so I also work with historians. Now, what I believe is that a researcher must be creative. And when we talk to the people in the street, lay people, they might think that researchers are people with genius, with a certain talent. But to me, it's true that creativity is necessary to a researcher, but at the same time, it doesn't come from genius or from a talent. It's closely linked, I think, to being curious about what other people do in their research, how they work, what are the methods that they use, what is the data they explore, what epistemology defines the scientific framework of their research. So I would like to show this to you through an example that has led to a publication.
Great.
First, I would like to speak about the concept of salience. What is salience? It's a word that we use in linguistics in order to show that an aspect of language stands out in a speech. It can be the repetition of the same word or the same phrase. It can be one sound that really stands out in the speech and maybe it's repeated, etc., etc. So at the time I got interested in this notion, it was because I was exploring narratives by British mountaineers. They had explored the Alpine mountains in the 19th century, and I wanted to find out how they spoke about parts of the world, parts of these mountains that hardly everyone had been to, and what creativity they needed in their specific writing to say something and to describe something that nobody had ever seen or that had never been written about. So of course, I'm a specialist of language, so I could have taken their texts and studied them in my own little corner. But I was very humbled by one thing in particular. I live here in Grenoble and we are in the Alps, and I go to the mountains, but actually as an object of research, I didn't know the mountains. So I started talking with my geographer colleagues. And at the beginning, I wanted them to give me a couple of tips. I wanted to give me references to read, that kind of things. And at that point, I realized that as a linguist, I could easily find a definition of what a mountain is. I only have to open a dictionary and I have got a definition. But a dictionary is made by lexicographers, so people who are specialists of language. When I turned to what geographers said about the mountains, what I found out was that it was very difficult for them to define what a mountain is. So if you take an example, like the Mont Blanc is the highest mountain of Europe. It's about 4,800 meters high. If you take this mountain magically and you take it to Scotland, where the highest mountain is Ben Nevis, and it's only about 2,000 meters high, the Mont Blanc will appear as absolutely grand. But if you take the Mont Blanc next to the Everest, suddenly nobody will notice it anymore. So it's all very relative. It's all a matter of representation. And this is more about words than about the reality of geography. At that point, I realized that by learning through geographers what they defined as a mountain, I realized that language had much more importance than I thought it had in my own research at the beginning. And it went the other way around, because my colleagues, they started asking me questions about why I needed these references, why I wanted to know about their discipline, and they became interested in my own findings. And suddenly they also realized that I was asking myself questions that they themselves had not asked themselves. Another outcome of that was that they also asked themselves a number of questions about their language, about how they spoke about geography, but they didn't have the methodological and epistemological tools that are necessary to study language. Therefore, we realized that we were very complementary. So they suggested that we work together, and I joined what we call here in France a LABEX, a Laboratoire d'Excellence, which is basically a research center that is funded and founded in order for people from different disciplines to work together. And so we all came from different disciplines. Of course, it was about the mountains. So there were geomorphologists, historians, sociologists, experts of sports like ski, and I was a specialist of language. So what we need to keep in mind is that not everybody is interested in interdisciplinary work. Some people want to be super specialists of their own field, and they already, in their own field of expertise, have a lot of work to do. So why take time to look at other disciplines? Another thing which I think is very important to keep in mind is that your discipline has a certain image in the culture of other disciplines. For example, I'm a specialist of the English language. So how did people see me? Well, I realized that they didn't think so much of me as a specialist of English as she's someone that speaks English very well, and she could be useful to translate our articles so that we get international publications. Well, sorry, I've got my own research to carry out. But their question is, can we do research in language? Like, you're not a science. What do you do? And what do you do it for? So I realized that interdisciplinarity and interdisciplinary research means that you, in your own discipline, you have to prove that the other discipline enriches your disciplines, but also that your own research can bring light to another field of expertise. So interdisciplinary research is about humility. It's about understanding that even if you're the most knowledgeable person, the most knowledgeable expert in your own discipline, you will never be enough to explain the object that you're researching on. So I'm going back to my experience with editing an issue of a geographical journal. I met the editorial board, and one of the researchers I had met before, who had got interested in my research in linguistics, had told me that the journal needed a brand of fresh air. Basically, there were geographers speaking about the mountains, and it was very interesting. But what they thought was, we are going round in circles, really. So we need a different stance, people talking about the mountains, but from a different point of view. And that colleague that I worked with said, oh, I'm going to introduce you to Samia because she's interested in the mountains, but from the point of view of linguistics. So a few weeks later, I submitted a project about the linguistic concept of salience. And because salience is a bit like that, and the mountain relief is a bit like that, I thought it was similar. So I said, I would like researchers to come together and reflect on the way in which humans can make mountains out of words. I have to say, this is a very nice story, but it was not very easy to convince the editorial board that as a member of a linguistics laboratory, I could teach them, geographers, something about the mountains. So I prepared a presentation to tell them what I had found out of their own discipline. And I also convinced them that I could maybe shed even a dim light on their own subject of expertise. So I showed them that their discourse, their own words about their mountains, they did not choose randomly. I said that, yes, you are experts, so politicians locally will take your words and the way you promote, for example, how can the mountains be preserved and more sustainable in the future? You are the geographers. You are the ones that advise these politicians. So you have an impact. So your words are very important. And this was an example that I gave out of many, and they said, oh, maybe it's interesting. So as a consequence, I did launch a call for papers, and I became the editor of an issue of the International Journal of Alpine Research. And what I made sure was that there was a blend between researchers who were linguists and others who were geographers. And I also made sure that insofar as the peer reviewers were concerned, there would always be one geographer and one linguist who would peer review an article. So eventually we found out that our work was very complementary. And the outcome of this is that actually I've never stopped working with geographers. And now something that was a little weird in the first place has become something quite natural. So I would like to tell you what interdisciplinary research brings about. It does bring about a lot. First of all, when you do interdisciplinary work, you're more open-minded. It's also very humbling because you realize that you are an expert of a certain object, but your discipline is not enough. It enhances your creativity because you exchange ideas and methods with other people. And also, it's very rewarding because what you see is that your field of expertise eventually matters to other people. So I think this is very important. I could tell you many more stories about my interdisciplinary experiences, but I hope that this particular experience has convinced people that working together is key to research, and it's also key to personal development. And I would like to finish this talk by saying that I had a very lovely experience. One of my geographer colleagues and myself gave a talk together. So in order to prepare this conference, I carried out some research about the history of disciplines. And I realized that, in fact, working in one little corner, specializing in one's own discipline, was something that dated back only 200 years ago. So prior to this, intellectuals only carried out research to explore what they needed to explore in order to find out about the object they were reflecting on. And it didn't matter what discipline it came from. They just wanted to broaden their knowledge. Therefore, interdisciplinary work is not something new. It's not a new trend. What is happening is that we're just going back to basics. We're going back to the roots of the production of new knowledge. Thank you very much.
I mean, majestic. Thank you so much. This is really new glimpse, new look at things. And I think you touched on many things. I know we had discussion before what you'll be talking about and stuff, but I think you touched here what creativity is. And it reminded me the saying of one of my teachers in the past, that genius is not a person who actually born that way. You may have like middle kind of abilities to develop something like maybe in the middle of the bell curve of people with different IQ or EQ, what they use now. But if you put maximum effort, you can learn a lot, you can excel, you can basically, be best in the class and succeed. But by doing that, at some point, you will find a niche where really appeals to you, and that's where creativity starts. It's like when you're walking the ground, your knowledge becomes like solid ground. It starts the creativity. You want to add something new. You see something new, like new horizon, and that's where it sparks. Another thing, I think, great thing you touched is working in multicultural, imagine, because it's university, and also interdisciplinary team. So they have different glance on things, not the same as yours. But at the same time, you learn from them, they learn from you. And also it's a discovery that, linguistics for us, many of us, it seems like, the subject that is very close to mathematics these days, to analyze words and trends. And many things, like many languages, are now forgotten languages. Mathematicians try to understand as a kind of cracking the code. So it already gives a hint, okay, it's not really so far from the, hardcore science. It's very much into that. And then another thing you touched, it's very important. It's like how the studies connect to environment. We all talk about environment and sustainability. And here you're touching on the subjects, saying that the words, how they, geomorphologists or geographers will talk to politicians about preservation of the environment makes a big difference how they structure their words. It may help these politicians to write policies, to write new vision for how to keep the environment for the future generations. And so it brings back to sustainability topic. So I think it's like so many aspects that I probably didn't mention all of them, but something that really had a vibe. And this is great. Thank you so much. I suppose we will meet again very soon and you will talk about university. Thank you for putting your email there, because I imagine it would be some groups that would be interested to contact you and potentially for collaboration. You never know. It could be grants, could be, starting with a small thing, but then growing into something bigger, just like you mentioned for your colleagues, that you never stop working with them. It's just evolving to another project. And of
Thank you
course,
very much for inviting me.
thank you again. And I guess you mentioned also with social sciences, right? The urban planning. That's something could be very appealing, especially for people here. So I'm based in Dubai, and it's a huge city that is growing, unraveling in front of the eyes. So that's would be vibrate very much for the people here as well. So it would be interesting to hear your story and your perspective. With that, thank you again for joining. I really appreciate. And viewers, stay tuned. We'll see Dr. Sami again in probably in a week with the new videos. Okay. Thank you so much. Don't
Thank
forget
you
to
very much.
subscribe.
Bye-bye. Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.